Well, hello everybody. We are going to be talking about hot flashes on our last video of the day. In fact, the whole day today was dedicated towards hot flashes and symptoms of menopause. We focused on hot flashes because so many of you I know are struggling with hot flashes, and so I guess that's why I decided to talk about it. And and then we also have that in the book. So it's chapter 12, hot flashes. And if you see the hand drawing that we got done, it's a maca root. It's a beautiful looking turnip that is part of the brassica family. That's one of the herbs that we feature in the book. And if you missed my interview with Dr. Anna Kabeka, who is the goddess of maca and menopause, and she's an OBGYN who specializes in menopause, I highly recommend for you to watch that video. We're going to be uploading all our content to overcomingestrogendominance.com/events. So all the videos that you might have missed in the past few days, it's all going to be there. We covered a lot of things, including weight gain around your hips and thighs, hot flashes today. We covered PMS and heavy periods. We had a day for healthy breast. We talked about food for estrogen dominance and what does it look like? What are the foods that you can incorporate? What are the foods that you should be removing or could be removing, and all that good stuff. So if you are listening for the first time, Overcoming Estrogen Dominance is my new book, and you can get it on overcomingestrogendominance.com. Grab the book there. It will take you to an Amazon link. Come back to this website with your receipt number, and we have a special gift for you that I think most of you will enjoy very much to use it towards your health. Okay, so today I'm going to do a reading for hot flashes specifically. We can talk a little bit about menopause after that, and then I'm going to answer questions. We're going to do some Q&As. One thing before I forget, also, we're doing a book giveaway today, and so one book is going to be sent to one of you, and we base those book giveaways on the quiz. So whatever I'm going to be reading about here, I will then ask you a question from this reading, and whoever gets it right, we're going to send you a copy of the book, or one person who gets it right. My team is going to select someone and send you a copy. So let's dive into and then we're going to do Q&As for those of you who have questions. We're going to do Q&As shortly. Hot flashes are one of the most common complaints for women in perimenopause, especially those over age 45. It is estimated that 70 to 85% of perimenopausal women have hot flashes. So if that is you, know that you are not alone. You can stop them. Figuring out your unique root cause and triggers will make it much easier for you to reduce and eliminate them. Key facts. The medical term for hot flashes is vasomotor flashing. So vaso as in, like vessels, right? So vasomotor flashing. Vasomotor refers to vasomotor center, the part of the brain that regulates blood pressure by controlling the diameter of the blood vessels. A hot flash in your body is a hot flash is your body's way of trying to cool itself. When the body gets too hot, it gets too excess heat by opening up the blood vessels in the skin, allowing more blood to flow into the area. The additional blood flow is the reason for your reddish skin during a hot flash. The extra heat escapes your body through sweat, causing you to feel chilly and clammy once your temperature drops when your hot flashes have passed. So that's the reason why a lot of women experience hot flashes together with night sweats as well. The frequency and severity of hot flashes varies amongst women. Some women experience hot flashes several times throughout the day, while others may get one every few weeks. Their intensity can vary from mild to severe and last anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes. In perimenopausal women, hot flashes tend to occur before or during periods. Hot flashes can persist into menopause for 1 to 2 years or much longer. I have come across women who've had it for as long as 10 years, which is kind of hard. Night sweats are when a hot flash occurs during the night, and the sweating that occurs to cool you off wakes you up. Some women lightly perspire, while others may soak through their pajamas. I even heard of women having to change their bedding because it was completely soaked. Symptoms: sudden rush of intense heat spreading over the body, including especially the chest, neck, and face. redness of the skin, especially of the neck, face, and nose, perspiration, increased heart rate, tingling and crawling sensation under the skin, nausea, chills once the hot flash has passed. Causes: blood vessels opening up too much, causing a rush of blood to the surface of your skin. Dropping estrogen levels is expected during perimenopause and especially during menopause. Surging FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, due to the slowdown of estrogen production in the ovaries during perimenopause and menopause. The body pumps out more FSH in a last-ditch effort to kick the ovaries into producing more estrogen. Blood sugar level imbalance, riding the blood sugar roller coaster of surges and crashes, is likely contributing to your hot flashes. Often a sudden drop in blood sugar triggers them. This is why it's important to follow the foundation protocol, balance your blood sugar levels, and eat a PFF breakfast. PFF stands for protein, fat, and fiber. High TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, or low thyroid function. Coffee and caffeine. Food sensitivities, especially to gluten and dairy. Stress, hot drinks, spicy food, not caused, but certainly contributors that can make hot flashes feel worse. Traditional treatments: synthetic estrogen hormone replacement therapy. This is the most common first-line treatment for hot flashes. The problem is synthetic hormone replacement therapy doesn't address the root cause and can cause a range of serious side effects. This is why I recommend trying natural options. Then, if necessary, explore bioidentical hormone replacement options with your healthcare provider. So then the section comes to the actual hot flashes add-on protocol. So let me just read that thing first. Step 1, do the 28-day estrogen reset foundation protocol, including the foundational supplements. See part 4 for everything you need to do it successfully. After doing the foundation protocol, you may not even need to implement step 2. But if you feel like you've mastered it and need to go deeper and address your hot flashes, read on. So what is step 2? Step 2, implement the hot flash protocol. Implement as much as the following as you can. Some things may help you and others would not. Everyone is different and will respond to changes in varied ways. Add topical progesterone. If you haven't already incorporated topical progesterone as part of the foundation protocol, now is the time. I have found that applying progesterone topically is an absolutely wonderful solution for hot flashes. It also improves sleep, promotes a calmer, boosts your mood, raises your libido, regulates your cycle for more predictable periods, builds bones, converts fat into energy, and lowers your risk of developing estrogenic breast cancer. If stress drives your hot flashes, try the 4-7-8 breathing technique. This technique stimulates the vagus nerve, promoting relaxation, lowering cortisol levels, and reducing inflammation. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold the breath for 7 seconds, and exhale for 8 seconds. It takes a few minutes a day to become an expert. You can see a demo on how I do it in a video on hormonesbalance.com/OED/downloads. Try castor oil packs to support liver detoxification, clear out the dirty estrogens, and reduce inflammation. If you haven't already tried castor oil packs, now is a good time to begin. For more on their benefits and how to apply a pack, see page 150. Spending time in an infrared sauna. Infrared saunas provide a host of amazing benefits, including lowering inflammation, promoting deep detoxification, and reducing pain. For more on the benefits of infrared sauna, see page 154. Implement herbal strategies. Work with a local herbalist to create an herbal formula that combines several different strategies: hormone modulators, and tonics, adaptogens, as well as nervines to promote calm. These herbs support the following strategies: hormone modulators and tonics: black cohosh, chasteberry, also known as vitex, dong quai, red raspberry leaf. Adaptogens: ashwagandha, schisandra, rhodiola, urethro, licorice. Nervines, especially if you are stressed: skullcap, oat straw, passion flower. The other just a few paragraphs is about testing. So testing Dutch using salivary testing for progesterone and adding bioidentical therapy if necessary. So I'll just read that part. If natural solutions are not enough to relieve your hot flashes, bioidentical hormone therapy is an option. Bioidentical estrogen, DHEA, and testosterone may be right for you depending on your needs and health issues. There is also a couple of boxes I want to read out to you. Keep a hot flash journal. Take note of when you have a hot flash and what was happening before it occurred. Were you stressed? Did you have a breakfast high in carbohydrates and sugar? Did you have nothing but coffee 3 hours prior? Pay attention. You will likely see some patterns that will help you to identify what's causing your hot flashes and what steps to take to curb them. One more thing I want to read for you is results of a poll that we did. What has worked for our Hormones Balance community? Poll results. What has helped your hot flashes? I've polled our community asking, what have you done to reduce hot flashes or night sweats? What has worked? Of all the replies, this is what has produced the best results. First one, reduced sugar consumption. This was the #1 most effective method cited. Some women reported also reducing alcohol along with all processed carbohydrates such as pasta and bread. Reduced and eliminated coffee and caffeine. Started the elimination diet and reduced inflammation from foods such as gluten and dairy. Added herbs such as maca, black cohosh, or Wise Women Balance. Wise Women Balance is a supplement formula we have in our store that contains a lot of those herbs that we're talking about here. Added topical progesterone. As you can see, 4 of these 5 solutions are already covered in the Foundation Protocol Part 4. And this is why I was saying earlier that a lot of times you might not even need to use these add-on protocols, or you might use them only some things from them, because when you do the Foundation Protocol, which is supporting your gut health, reducing, balancing your blood sugar levels, and detoxifying your liver, you're actually taking care of a lot of things already in one go, and you don't really need to do a lot more after that. Okay, so let me read out a question for the book giveaway. And the question is gonna be, name 2 hormone modulators and tonings that I just mentioned just now that can be particularly helpful for women with menopause, hot flashes, and just overall hormonal balance. Okay, 2 hormone modulators and tonics. Okay, so let's dive into some questions that are coming in and see what we've got. Can I get off bioidenticals safely? You need to talk to your practitioner about that. It really depends on your symptoms of what's going on. You know, like for example, somebody who's got a history of osteoporosis, just as an example, and if being on a hormone therapy has really helped, and going off that could result in poor bone health, and that's a liability to yourself. And so you really need to talk to your doctor about that. But you can if you wanted to. Rose Lily is saying, if we have estrogen dominance, would increasing progesterone help? If so, how should we increase progesterone? So I talked about that in the first videos. So if you go to overcomingestrogendominance.com/events, that's a URL that we're posting all the videos. And I talked about the different types of estrogen dominance. And one of the forms of estrogen dominance, when you have too much estrogen and too little progesterone. So if this is the kind of estrogen dominance that you have, then adding progesterone to it is gonna balance things out. If your estrogen dominance is caused by maybe this type, but also a lot of women have another type of estrogen dominance, which is called dirty breakup. And the dirty breakup or ugly breakup is that the way you're breaking down those estrogens is unfavorable. You're producing too many dirty estrogens. Then adding progesterone alone is not going to help. Then you need to support your liver effectively in order to break down and metabolize those estrogens very effectively. And I talked about it in the initial videos. And you know, for those of you who have this type of estrogen dominance problem, which is the dirty estrogens, then there's the whole section here for you is that I suggest for you to follow is the liver protocol. And we have some really nice solution for you, including digestive bitters, how to incorporate more bitter herbs, and better foods into your diet, incorporate it into your food, and they can really make a difference in your liver. Paula is asking, where can we find progesterone cream, topical, and learn how to use it? So, we have one in our store as well. So if you go to wellena.com, and you can use if you're buying the book, you can use the gift card that we have for you to get the product too. It's called Progest Pure, and so it's in a form of oil. We decided to go with an oil because it really disappears really, really quickly. Oh, there we go. That's the product page. Thank you, Brittany. And it goes on right here on the soft parts of your forearms here, and it disappears literally in a minute. So it's one of the purest products you find in the market. Is maca safe if you have breast cancer? So Alexandra is asking. It's a that's a question. We had a lot of questions similar to this when Dr. Anna Kabaka was on, and I really can't comment on that. You need to talk to your oncologist about that. Maca is slightly estrogenic, so there are some very gentle phytoestrogens in it. But like with everything else, flaxseed, for example, it's not bad if you have estrogen dominance. The problem is when you break down those. The question is, how do you break down those estrogens? How you break down maca is gonna be, and the phytoestrogens in the maca, the phytoestrogens in flaxseed, or anything else that you're eating, is gonna be dependent on your liver and your gut. And if you're producing too many dirty estrogens, then certainly it's not gonna benefit breast cancer if the breast cancer is an estrogen receptor positive breast cancer. So it's a very complicated answer to all of this, it is also a liability for me to answer that, so I would suggest you speak to your oncologist. Is black cohosh bad for heavy periods? So black cohosh is not particularly like the first herb that I will go to when it comes to heavy periods. Heavy periods, and we have a whole protocol for heavy periods here. And so the herbal strategies that we deploy for heavy periods is more focusing on a couple of things. One is astringent, something that will cut off the blood supply to the uterus during times of heavy menstruation. So things like yarrow, for example, or shepherd's purse could be a good example of that. And the other one is that you want to add herbs that are progesterone producing. And so vitex, for example, stimulates progesterone production. So that's going to be better effect than black cohosh alone. Regarding root causes, what would you recommend a DNA test for from Itovi? So I don't know the company Itovi, so I can't comment on that, but I will just talk about broader spectrum, broader strokes about DNA testing. So, I think it's a really great idea, especially if you have family history of certain conditions, like whether it's Alzheimer's or breast cancers or diabetes or things like that. So let me share with you my personal story with doing DNA testing and how much it has changed for me. So, for years, I've always been kind of angry with myself that I am so sensitive to everything, and it manifests in the form of terrible periods, terrible PMSs, I develop lumpy breasts. So for example, I'll give you an example. I will go to, say, Portugal, right, and spend a month with my friend in Portugal, and we will go and have fun and have wine and coffee and sometimes a bit more gluten. I never eat gluten, but I go there and occasionally I have gluten, and I'll come back and I have lumps on my breast and I have period from hell and I don't feel good and I put on weight really quickly, like my hips are suddenly like really talking here, right? And so I used to get really kind of angry with myself, like, why am I so sensitive? Like, obviously this lifestyle isn't serving me. And so when I did my DNA testing, and I didn't even do it through Itovi, I did it through just 23andMe, and then you have these different services that interpret it. I'm very lucky to be connected to a network of practitioners who interpret them, and so I had a number of interpretations, and every one of them generated a little bit different information. But one thing that was very consistent was, number one, is I'm a terribly poor estrogen metabolizer. So you have, in the book, I talk about also the genes that metabolize your estrogens. And the big one is called COMT, the COMT, COMT gene. And guess what? Out of the 5 genes that code for enzymes that degrade COMT, I have 3 double mutations. So basically 70% of my ability to detoxify estrogen is impaired. And that explained suddenly a lot of things for me when I did the DNA testing. It explained why I'm so sensitive to, just to foods and why I become so estrogenic so quickly. It also explained why I have aunts on both sides of my family, mom and dad, who have died of estrogenic cancer. I have deaths from uterus, from ovarian and breast cancers on both sides. But it also explained a few other of my personality characteristics. So for example, one of the things is that I'm a total dopamine junkie. And people like that tend to have a lot more higher predisposition towards addictions because you're constantly looking for a high. People like with these sort of genetics, we just like, we are workaholics. We always look for the next, and whether that kick, that high comes from sex or alcohol or drugs or work, it's the same thing. It's the same mechanism. For me, thank goodness, it's just from work and no other things. But so anyway, it's a long way of saying that I do like DNA testing in that way, just because I think it creates a lot more forgiveness to yourself, just to understand yourself. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm just wired that way. But we also mustn't fall into the other space, which is, I genetically have a diabetes is my genes. It's a predisposition to having, let's say, like for example, Dr. Anna Kabaka is very open about that, who was here on an interview. Her whole family is diabetic, so she is definitely has to be really careful with sugar. If she and I, for example, have a glass of wine, her blood sugar level is going to spike up much more than mine would, right? So we have a certain predispositions, but can you change it? Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole area of epigenetics is how do you not let those genes manifest by making lifestyle changes, detoxification, diet, sleep, all right, meditation, all of those factors. So I'm all in for DNA. It's just use it wisely and for the right reasons. Alex is saying, would it be too much to take Vitex and add progesterone topically? So, I mean, if I would do one or the other, to be perfectly honest. But if you're feeling, for example, that taking Vitex, it's still, excuse me, you're still having symptoms of low progesterone, then I think adding progesterone topically would be a wise thing to do. But just don't do them together. When you have too much progesterone, when you start getting really foggy brained, you get really kind of feeling blah, unenthusiastic about things. You sleepy all the time. You just kind of, progesterone is the relaxation. If you're like overly relaxed to a point of being sluggish, that's when you know to back off. Laura is saying, I bought organic flaxseed, big bag, big pack, but it's already crushed. I saw last night you used whole seeds. Is it okay to use the one I have and I need to buy a new pack? I hate to throw away food. I hear what you're saying, Laura. I mean, I think if you really want, so let me just define why I said that. The reason why I'm not for buying flax meal, it's called flax meal, right? Is because pre-ground flaxseed is because you don't know how long was there in the bag. Same thing on what I was talking about this morning. For example, when I buy herbs, I always try to buy them in whole form, never in powder form, because once you grind something up, it exposes the full area, right? It exposes so much of that plant substance to air. And what does air do? What does oxygen do? I mean, we have the term oxidation, right? Which is not a good thing. Rust on a steel is oxidation, right? So you're just degrading the food really, really quickly. And you just, what you are getting from that pre-ground flaxseed like that is you're definitely doing a lot of fiber, which is still beneficial. But in order to get the lignans, that's something that has to be freshly ground. So, one thing you can do, Laura, is there's a number of recipes on my website and my first cookbook, a few here as well. They use flaxseed as a replacement for eggs in a lot of baked goods, like a lot of muffin recipes. So maybe use that bag for that purpose, and then really buy the full seeds and grind it freshly for if your objective is to raise your estrogen levels. I'm saying, what is the best way to reduce excess testosterone? I had excess estrogen. Now it's this hormone resulting in a lot of facial hair on chin and lips. Please help. Yeah. So I actually have a full protocol on this in this book. And the reason why, let me just find that for you. If you're getting the book, it's on page 228. High testosterone PCOS protocol. So it's on page 228. And the reason why I incorporated this to the book is because women who have high testosterone and PCOS converts. So testosterone converts to estrogen. And so this explains why a lot of women who have high testosterone also tend to be very estrogenic, because they just have so much of estrogen, okay, and especially estradiol, which is the most aggressive form of estrogen. So the question goes up even a step further up, and that is, how do you reduce excess testosterone? And believe it or not, there's two real main steps in reducing testosterone naturally. The first one is you regulate your blood sugar levels. Most women who have PCOS and high testosterone levels, also known to have a metabolic disorder. Most women with PCOS have a problem with metabolism, which is all a result of high blood sugar levels. Why? Is because high blood sugar levels binds up something called the sex hormone globulin. Sex hormone globulin is the one that binds up excess testosterone. When your blood sugar levels are high, your sex hormone binding globulin drops down. And that's why you have so much of testosterone floating around in your body. The second thing you do, especially if you have excess, facial hair, etc., it is definitely because of high testosterone. But if you do have potentially PCOS, and is that reducing inflammation in your body is going to really help you tremendously. So I don't know where your inflammation is coming from, but generally the baseline protocol for lowering inflammation, which really this whole book is all about too, helping you lower inflammation, is to reduce your sugar, because sugar is hugely inflammatory, reducing stress, reducing inflammatory foods like gluten, dairy, whatever else that you are not tolerating well. Hey, you guys, whenever I talk about inflammatory foods, and I always ramble on about gluten and dairy and soy and corn and all that, right, which we don't use here in this book. But if you know, for example, that you cannot eat bananas, or you cannot eat peanuts, please don't eat them, because they're just going to add inflammation to your body, okay? So use your common sense in that you want to really incorporate foods that are really healing, soothing. Your body is just like, oh, feels so good, and not be like, whoa, bloated and constipated, and it gives you a headache and you're feeling inflamed, right? So I hope this is helpful. Is maca safe for hypothyroidism? Yeah, I was waiting for that question for a long time, and I was hoping somebody was going to ask them when Anna was on. And the answer is absolutely yes. It's a complete myth. And I did a thyroid segment a couple of days ago, and I talked about all about hypothyroidism and cruciferous vegetables. So maca falls in the family of the brassica family. So it's also known as the cruciferous vegetable. It's the short answer of this is absolutely perfectly safe. And I said this before, and I say it again, that this was a myth that somebody created on the internet based on soy. And soy, yes, is highly, which can create goiter and can close out the receptors in the thyroid, and kind of took it to cruciferous vegetables, and the internet was just copying and pasting from each other without reference checking. So I can tell you now that when I was in private practice and I worked only with patients with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, I have not met a single woman who would come and say, I've given up all cruciferous vegetables and I healed my Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism. Doesn't exist. So I would not be worried about that at all. When doing intermittent fasting, is there any effect on thyroid balance to expect? Does it throw them off because we skip a meal? So that depends on your blood sugar levels. You were on that call, I think, when Dr. Anna was talking about really starting off with 13 hours only and then increasing it. That's why I like to do intermittent fasting, having early dinner and then doing breakfast soon after getting up, because a lot of women do get hypoglycemic in the morning without having a meal. And that's when you have hypoglycemic events, then your cortisol levels spike up, because your cortisol also tries to raise your blood sugar levels. So it's like a bad combination altogether. So you really have to experience that on yourself. Thyroid hormone effect on, I mean, the one thing that we didn't talk about intermittent fasting, or she didn't, is that there's a lot of research on intermittent fasting, including how it affects the immune system in a positive way, how it regulates blood sugar levels, how a lot of the I'm blanking on it right now, but it's the so the immune system just gets a huge rest during that time, and so I can't see why it would not. It would definitely not hurt the thyroid. What are you considering? What are you considering high blood sugar? So, right. So you can go by symptoms, and you can also look at your lab work. So that's a good question. You can look at high blood sugar levels in two ways. One is your fasting glucose, okay? And, I talked about in the context of the thyroid how what's your lab work, your lab gives you like a healthy range, like a normal range, is considered actually not for healthy people. And functional medicine considers it in a very different way, that's much more narrower. So with thyroid is like that, with blood sugar levels the same way. So I believe that when you get your lab work from, LabCorp or Quest or whatever, they will tell you that as long as you are not above 99, that you are good, okay? And in functional medicine, it's considered that you want to be below 87. So that's quite a big difference, okay? The other one that you might want to consider doing, which is actually more accurate because it's not like fasting glucose can also depend a little bit what you ate the night before. Even though you're going in fasting, it can impact, like if you had a lot of wine the night before or something, it might jack it up. So the other marker to use is HbA1c. And that's another great marker that shows you the average blood sugar value for the past 3 months that's in the blood cells. And so again, for functional medicine, the range is between 5.1 to 5.2, where I think conventional medicine will tell you that you can be even up to 5.5. So it might not sound like a lot different, but actually in the context of that marker, it's very different. So that's for blood sugar. Those are for markers. When it comes to actual, you also have to know, I think it's also good to know your own symptoms. Like, what is the symptoms of of being hypoglycemic, right? And so, what doesn't serve you well. I want to give you an example. For instance, I ran out of, what is it, like some of the things that, okay. So I started buying this new bread. I thought I'll cut down a little bit on grains and see how I feel. So I started buying this bread that was paleo and grain-free. And I had it for breakfast with some savory food, right? And I got hypoglycemic. I was like, why am I hypoglycemic? I didn't eat any sugar. And then I looked at the product. Sometimes I forget to. I didn't look at the ingredients. And the ingredients were all very, very much starch-based. So it was like potato starch. It had tapioca starch. It was all like starch. So no wonder it made me hypoglycemic. So you're gonna know what the symptoms are. And the symptoms are that you start feeling really shaky on the inside. Some people have a massive anxiety attack. Others you can even get your hands shaking like that. You can't focus. You get really moody, very unfocused, right? So you really can't focus and function. And you start craving more sugar. So those are the, some of the common symptoms. Okay. You're welcome. Can estrogen cause your hair to be dry? No, not so much. No, estrogen is typically the thyroid. Low thyroid function causes your hair to be very dry. If it's a hormonal issue, hair health depends on a lot of factors. I've written articles about that you can find it on hormonesbalance.com. I've written about hair, but it's more about hair loss. And there's different reasons why, our hairs are a real reflection of overall health, you guys. And skin is the same thing. We focus so much on topical stuff and putting stuff in our hair and stuff like that. But really it really is an expression of what's inside your body, right? So your hair being dry, low thyroid function is one, low vitamin B12 is another, or could be another reason. And there's a whole bunch of other things. You can look at that in the article. Diana is saying, can breasts shrink by bringing hormones after balance? My breast size increased after hysterectomy. Are you doing any hormone replacement therapy after you had your hysterectomy? Because a lot of women are put on estrogen after that. And so if you can comment on that, then we can do a follow-up answer. Next question, if there's any. Can estrogen dominance bring on migraines? I had a vestibular migraine recently for the first time. I felt dizzy for a few weeks, very concerning. Yeah, Paula. So first of all, so the answer is yes, and I'm going to contextualize in a second. But before I forget that, I just want to say, I really want to encourage you to get it checked out with your doctor of what's going on, because being dizzy for a few weeks, it's more than just a migraine. And so I think having a scan would be really highly recommended. So let's move on to the migraines. Yes, so low estrogen and low progesterone can often cause a migraine. So a lot of women are experiencing migraines before their periods. And this is where also your estrogen and progesterone go and down right to the lowest. And so it can be the cause. What I've also found is that I'm someone who used to suffer from migraines and severe headaches. And I would get anxiety and heart palpitations if I leave my home without my painkillers. This is back in the day when I was in my 20s before starting doing this work. And I've discovered that food sensitivities were the cause of my issues. And so I'm not saying that that's yours, but I think it's worthwhile exploring. Again, we have a great article that talks about very widely what are the potential causes of migraines and headaches. And so in my case, it was gluten that's giving me headaches. And even today, if I have gluten, let's say for dinner, and I have one for breakfast, by lunchtime, I'm going to have a pretty bad migraine. So that's something to also consider when you have migraines. You want to consider definitely go anti-inflammatory as much as possible. So I think Diana has answered that question that yes, she is on estrogen. So this is where progesterone and estrogen, but needs to be careful. So you, again, the question is it progesterone, bioidentical progesterone, or is it progestin? And is it bioidentical estrogen, or is it synthetic estrogen? So those are a lot of nuances. But I will speak to, I tend to have tenderness with bioprogesterone. I take 25 milligrams bioprogesterone and estriol patch. Yeah. So one thing, Diana, to consider is to do a little bit of a liver detox, because if you're doing an you're doing an estriol patch. That's a nice estradiol form of estrogen. So yeah, I would talk to your provider about changing the doses a little bit and see how that impacts. It could be that you might need. So one thing that's really interesting is that women who respond negatively to progesterone, what I have learned through going and this is just a year ago when I was at the conference, endocrine conference, and it was really interesting to find out that women who are responding in a negative way to progesterone, which you would have thought it's like, it's the holy grail of resolving all your perimenopausal problems, right? But not so, not every time. And it turns out that progesterone reaction to progesterone can also be caused when a woman is also low on estrogen, but the estrogen is not being brought up. And so that's something to, I think, one thing you should really be doing, I hope you're doing with your provider, is doing Dutch testing, urine testing, to see your estrogen levels, your progesterone levels. And it could be that, estriol is not what you need. You might need to have a little bit of maybe estradiol or maybe a little bit of DHEA. And play around with that. A good provider would experiment with different options and different doses until you figure it out, because everyone is completely different. Two women with the same symptoms might have completely two different solutions in order to arrive at a good hormonal health. Nelly's asking, will your book talk about intermittent fasting? No, so I didn't do that. Just because we have 400 pages in this book already. And I've said a lot of things in that. But it's something that I think, we said a lot today about intermittent fasting, and it really is a pretty simple concept. So we will leave it for you guys to experiment a little bit and see figure out what's your sweet spot. Like Dr. Anna said, start off with 13 hours. Is acne a symptom of estrogen dominance? Acne around period time? Yes, it can be. Yes, it can be. And the other reason why we have acne is high testosterone levels. So that's another, a classical one. Yeah. If you're low progesterone and trying to conceive, should you only use topical progesterone when you are in luteal phase? So Liz, that depends on what your estrogen levels are, because estrogen also needs to be at a sufficient level in order for pregnancy to happen, not just progesterone. So I think the best thing to do is to work with someone who can order Dutch testing for you, DUTCH, Dutch testing, and then get that interpreted and see whether where's your estrogen, if you need some support on estrogen. And by the way, you can bring up your estrogen levels naturally, not just through bioidentical hormones, but you can also do food. Like you can do, flaxseed is just a wonderful source of estrogen. Red clover tea is another source of estrogen. I want to give you an example. My sister my sister's 3 years younger, and we live quite different lifestyles. I'll just leave it at that because she might be listening. And she's got hot flashes, she told me, right? So she wouldn't be making the changes that I teach, because that's how it goes from the family, right? And the more I suggest, the more pushback I get. So I'm sure you've seen this with your own families, like, hey, this can really help you. And the person's like, no, I know better. So my sister started having hot flashes, and because she read somewhere in a magazine, as it goes, she started drinking. She tells me, she's like, I'm drinking red clover tea, and it's really helping my hot flashes. I'm like, great. It's in my book too. I've been telling you about it for the past 2 years. And, so it's, so anyway, yes, it's, you can also bring up your estrogen and progesterone up naturally. So that was my point. What was that about estrogen? Red clover. Jamie saying, why do I feel so fatigued when using topical progesterone? That's an interesting question. So Jamie, so first of all, I would suggest always use progesterone at night. And the other thing is also to make sure that you actually go to our website, hormonesbalance.com, or Brittany, if we can post that link on progesterone. There's a whole elaboration of reactions to progesterone. So candida is one of the issues we have found. I found some studies that show that reaction to progesterone when somebody has candida could be potentially a problem. What kind of progesterone you're using is another issue. So making sure you're choosing a really clean product is really, really, really important. And in that article, I talk about the things you should never find in your progesterone. So there's a whole list of things there. And in full honesty, there is also the other one that I talked about is if you're taking progesterone and your estrogen is low, you might want to consider to bring your estrogen up using the flaxseed or red clover tea that I was trying to say just now in a long convoluted way. So those are some of the things to consider. Should vitex be taken at night is one of the questions. And the answer is no, you don't have to actually. Because, it's not like progesterone is going to make you sleepy per se. So vitex can be taken anytime during the day. Have you heard of tired liver, medical medium, and celery juice for cleanse? And if so, what are your thoughts? I'll just be straight up. I'm not a fan of medical medium. Okay. And, but I'll say if the celery juice is helping you, what the heck? Just continue doing it. I think there's a lot of other things we can do to support our liver, and it's all in the third chapter here on the liver health. So yeah. I started having hot flashes since I was 50 during peri-menopause. I am now 61 menopausal and still have hot flashes, not as severe. Will that ever go away? I do have thyroid nodules. So Carol, what have you tried, and have you listened to our calls from this morning, and then in the afternoon we did a call with Dr. Anna Kabeka, because it talks a lot about, we talked about blood sugar balance as being one of the, and if you read or heard me read the chapter just now, I talked about how important blood sugar balance is. So that's one consideration. The other one is, the other cause of hot flashes is low estrogen. So you can bring up your estrogen slightly higher, and especially in menopause, it's so nice and safe to do that through things like incorporate 2 tablespoons of fresh flaxseed every day, do a red clover tea, you know, just a couple of tablespoons, not even that. Yeah, I mean, you can infuse to like 2 tablespoons in a quart, and infuse that and just drink it throughout the day. I mean, those are some of the simple things of blood sugar balance, and low estrogen can really help. Bringing up your estrogen can really help to mitigate those. May I get your thoughts on using melatonin for sleep regularly? That's a great question, Andrea. So I am of the opinion that melatonin is a really great quick fix. If you, for example, you know, you've got a big day tomorrow and you just can't sleep, and it's like occasionally you just use it because you need to fall asleep, right? Now, you see this ring that I'm wearing on my index finger here, right? It's called Oura, O-U-R-A. And one of the cool things about using Oura is that I've been experimenting a ton on about what affects my sleep. And so after the book launch is over, I'm going to write an article about fixing your sleep up to 45. And one of the things I have, and I've been doing a lot of things to experiment. I've been drinking alcohol, or doing melatonin, or doing herbs, or going to sleep at different times, and using my dehumidifier and not using it, and one thing at a time, just to kind of see what impacts my sleep. And it's not going to be what if works for me might not work for you, but I want to just create like a menu of things for you guys, so you can just go tick, 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 and see what your problem is or where you can resolve it. So to me, melatonin is a bit of a crutch, right? And you're just resting on it while you are still hurting. And the issue is you've got to fix your wounds, right, somewhere else, and instead of depending on it. So I think lack of sleep is a bigger question. And so I've written an article about 3 years ago, and I keep revising this article, or adding to it, I should say, as I'm learning things, because the things are, the effects you sleep can be really huge. And so anything from, I'll just do a look, and Brittany, maybe if we can post the link on the sleep, how to fix your sleep, the one that we currently have. It's a really good article already. They have I have 13 30 different solutions for you to look at. And one of them is looking at your magnesium levels. Are you low on progesterone? Okay. Are you looking at, are you doing this at night? Instagram, Facebook, right? And blue screen. So, sorry, screen emits blue light. Blue light interferes with your pineal gland's ability to produce your own melatonin. Or are you low on serotonin? So serotonin is a precursor for melatonin. Serotonin is produced in your gut, not in your brain. It's in your gut. Do you have a lot of digestive issues? Because if you fix your digestive issues, you're going to start producing serotonin more effectively. Serotonin is your on switch, where melatonin is your off switch, right? And the list goes on. So what I'm saying here, Andrea, is that somebody who's got sleeping problems, actually the problem is bigger than the sleep. It's something else that is impacting the sleep. And most likely, if you resolve your sleeping problems, then you're most likely going to resolve a lot of other health issues in your life. So circling back, melatonin, I think it's a nice little fix when we need it, but on a daily basis, on a regular basis, you're not going to really see a lot of result. And one of the things I was just going to say about the Oura ring, one of the cool things that it shows me is how much of light sleep, REM sleep, and deep sleep I'm getting. And a really healthy person gets about 1 hour to 2 hours of deep sleep. Let me tell you, when I take melatonin, and I've experimented with that, when I'll be like doing things that I know would interfere in my sleep, like for example, I'll be like on my iPad watching a movie, right? And like on purpose, just to experiment. And then I'll take melatonin to knock me out. I would not get enough deep sleep. I'll get like 20 minutes of deep sleep, right? And deep sleep is super important because your growth hormone gets produced in deep sleep. And well, guess what? Your growth hormone, this is your youthness hormone, that's like, you want a nice skin and not too many wrinkles and be vibrant and being good, in good shape. is the growth hormone. That's when it gets produced in sleep. That's why when we sleep well, we look great, right? And when we don't sleep, we look like shit. So anyway, a long answer, but I think it's gonna be very helpful for everybody to really think about this, because sleep really is such a big issue for our community, and especially when you go into perimenopausal menopause. It's what happens is your progesterone starts dropping. Our magnesium deficiency become much more obvious. I just feel generally we just get so much more sensitive to everything. All the deficiencies suddenly become much more manifested, and sleep is one of the things that suffers. So you're gonna fix that. I'm thinking about growing red clover this year since I've heard so much about it this week. Yay, great. Yeah, it's just a wonderful herb. And if you're going for those of you who don't have means to growing it, because maybe you are in a small apartment in New York, or or you just like I'm up in the mountains, so ain't gonna live. It's not gonna grow up here. But if you are, a lot of you can, whenever you go foraging and you see red clover, just, hey, you guys Google. Actually, Brittany, why don't we just Google an image of red clover? Let's share it out on the screen. What a red clover looks like, and you want to get the tip and the three leaves on it, and that's, you can just go and forage those. And I do that whenever I go for hikes with my dogs. However, want to make sure that you don't pick up that one that's like right next to the walking paths, because it's ground. It's there we go. Dogs would have peed on it, so you don't want those. Yeah, there you go. So when you pick it, you see these 3 leaves. That one has got 4 leaves. That's very unusual. Can we pick one that has 3 leaves? It is called trifolium. So trifolium is because it's got 3 leaves. There you go. So when you pick, you don't pick all the other leaves and the stem and all that. You just pick the flower and the 3 leaves with it. You just nip it. And also make sure you don't pull it out together with the roots. You want to keep the roots in, because we want the roots to be generating more flowers in the future. Where do you get the aura ring? The aura ring, you just Google aura ring, OURA ring, and you can get it there. We don't have any special deals from them or anything like that I can pass on to you. So yeah, Lisa is saying, is black cohosh safe if you have liver disease, 3rd stage cirrhosis? I would speak to your doctor about that. By the way, I love your skincare. Oh, thank you, Diana. Which product do you like the most? My personal favorite is actually, I know a lot of people like the serum, and I like the serum. I like the serum. But I love my cleanser. I think our cleanser is just so awesome. And I feel like it's kind of underestimated, I feel, because we're using, what we're using? We are using nuts, soap nuts in it. And soap nuts contain saponin in it, which is like, kind of like, that's what makes soap soapy, but it's very gentle. So I feel like every time I cleanse my face, it's like, it's really nice and gentle. It's not like, like everything gets stripped and then you're producing your own oils, and that's just not good. And your pH of the skin changes. By the way, we're going to be talking about a lot more about skin pH in the coming weeks. Stay tuned for that. Okay, do we have any more good questions? I hope this session is helpful for you guys, and I'm so glad that so many people are looking at the red clover. That's a nice one. Okay, yay. All right, well, tomorrow I'm going to be talking to my really good friend, Lara Adler, who is a wonderful person when it comes to environmental toxins. So we're going to be talking about cleaning up your home, cleaning up your skincare products, your cleaning products, and the different substances, some obvious, some not so obvious, that are hiding in these products that you can remove easily, and they can really contribute towards estrogen dominance. These chemicals are xenoestrogens. They really interfere with your whole hormonal balance, and especially making estrogen dominance even worse. So we're going to talk about that. If you've been missing the previous talks from the previous day, today's day number 7. So we had like 6 other days, and 6 times 3, 18 other talks that I've done over the past 7 days. And that's all of that is posted now on overcomingestrogendominance.com/events. It's all there. And if you are planning to get the book, get it on overcomingestrogendominance.com. And you can either choose Amazon for the United States, or you can choose overseas shipping, and And it's, yeah, and then we got like this gift card for you, which is like so nice, I think. I'm so excited for you guys to be here and trying new things and experimenting on new things. So it's just very rewarding to see all of this. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.